On this week's episode of the Bigfooty Podcast, we talk about Dean Robinson and what he's been up to lately. With the Prosecutor, we talk about Nat Fyfe's chances of winning the Brownlow and having rules changed. We talk about Reece Conker and whether he should have been charged with assault. And all that and more coming right up. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Bigfooty Podcast. Take two, if you're wondering. But with me tonight, I've got a star podcast crew, and I've got some ring-ins that have been here before, and we bring them in for special occasions. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back the Prosecutor.
Oh, thanks for having me back. Seems incompetence follows me.
And Prosecutor's return obviously means we'll be discussing the ASADA situation tonight with some new developments, or recent developments there. Not necessarily new ones, but recent ones. And
for something different, yep.
We've also got the stalwart Mike is here from the Bulldogs board.
Stalwart. Is that a new word for you in your vocabulary, is it?
That's right, I've got a thesaurus open in front of me.
Hi again, guys. Good to see you back, or be back on the show.
And the lying and thieving Seppo is here.
Oh, I think that's generous words when you consider the umpiring that went on Thursday night, Wookie, but I'll take that and welcome back.
Yeah, so I seem to recall a very dodgy 50 being played in the last couple of minutes there that may have gone against us. But then again, we also had a ruckman and a midfielder that decided to go out of bounds rather than... anyway, I could go on. There may be a recording of me somewhere abusing the life out of David Ellard in the last minute of the game, but anyway, I may have cursed all West Australians from now till eternity. But that's beside the point. Anyway, gentlemen, what were your highlights from the weekend?
Well, my biggest highlight was that result of Freo scraping over the line in one of those heart-wrenching games. Ones you don't rush out and watch the replay again, but it was just a highlight to watch that game ebb and flow right the way through, and it's just great watching Freo first time on a Thursday night get the 4 points against your favourite team there, Wookie.
Well, luckily for you, Seppo, you had something to be joyous about, but for me and other dog supporters, there was nothing joyous about watching our team getting steamrolled by Hawthorn in the last quarter down in Aurora Stadium, so... Not much, unfortunately, in the term of dog supporters to be happy about.
Well, I had a lovely little anecdote that I said in the first take. But in the interest of time, I'll give you the too long didn't read version. Kicked a football for the first time in about 3 or 4 years, and I had fun. So that's my little positive for the football week.
And I think my highlight was Mark Murphy's goal. Very early in the game against Fremantle. Obviously, the game itself, not the biggest of highlights for me, but still.
A great goal kick from the Eagles' pocket, according to Basil Zemplas there. Just like to remind us in the Fremantle-Geelong game, or Fremantle-Carlton game, that there was
the West Coast Eagles pocket
thrown in.
But who's obsessed?
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought we were talking highlights, not Basil Zemplas' commentary.
That's true. We'll leave that for the lowlights section.
Well, obviously, as we said in the lead up there, just with Prosecutor on, we're talking ASADA, and first cab off the rank in the news tonight, we're going to talk about Dean Robinson, who has apparently issued 17 subpoenas to a wide variety of AFL officials, casting a very deep net, according to David Galbally. Pros, what's going on here?
We have, 17 subpoenas issued to AFL, Essendon staff, so on and so forth. Of course, they've been in... Dean Robertson and the Essendon Football Club have been in mediation for most of the year, and we're just getting to the stage now where the subpoenas have been issued, and surprisingly, there's no James Hurd. And who else isn't? I don't think there's any Danny Corcoran as well, which is a bit surprising. Though Mark Robinson makes the list. All makes for a good little soap opera, doesn't it?
I thought that was interesting that Mark Robinson made that list.
I reckon that's pretty funny, to be honest. That'd be very interesting to see what he hands over. If anything.
I see as well.
That'll be half the. You want to know how David Gallaby? Is it David Gallaby?
David Galbally or whatever his name is.
Galbally, yeah.
Yep.
You want to know how he'll be making his money trying to decipher what Robert's written on his notes.
It's
But
almost,
apart from that,
it does appear that this is a fishing expedition, though. Like, there's no
aren't they all though? When it comes to issuing subpoenas and stuff like that.
Well, yes, but and none more so than the Don's request for documents far and wide, covering many officials and whatnot in their court case against ASADA.
Oh, that's a nice little segue into different cases.
It was. I thought it was very well done. Thanks for pointing that out, though. You ruined the subtlety of the move.
Oh, just for those out there who didn't understand the beauty of your hosting abilities. But anyway.
No, it's learn from the Tony Barber School. When we go to the pick of the board later on, you'll. So anyway, live on Monday on the ABC, the opening statements of the Essendon versus ASADA case.
Rather interesting, to be honest, that the justice has decided to open that up for the media.
It is only the first opening statements, apparently. The rest of the case will not be televised, but apparently there's a recognition of the public interest by the justice there. So,
yeah, I mean, as a member of the public, I'm not exactly complaining, but it's still interesting that he'd, throw open just even the opening submissions to, well, the public, really.
And James Heard's selling his house, apparently, according to the Herald Sun today.
He's probably sick of the reporters waiting out the front of it. It's decreased its value, so he's probably looking at moving on and hopefully finding a secure location that no one knows about.
Well, it's actually not the property they're living in currently. It's an investment property that Tanya Heard owns. So it's the fact that that's made banner headlines for the Herald Sun, and I think it's front page news for the Age as well, is quite astounding, really.
What are your thoughts on Heard's coaching possibilities this year?
This year or next year as well?
Next year, this year, any year.
Oh, well, it's pretty simple for me because I don't want him back.
Right, fair enough.
So, just to cut to the chase. But, look, to be honest, I think we've got the better coaching now. I know that Heard's a club legend, but, so be it, he signed up as a coach, fully aware that, his playing career or whatever should have no extra stead on how he performs as a coach. And I think Michael Voss is testament to that, if you're not good enough or the board doesn't deem you up to it, you shouldn't be there. So I don't think he should get any extra credit. And I mean, and any tickets he had in the bank from his playing career, to be honest, I think were used up when he was hired in the first place. So I think we've got a better coach. I think a man who had his level of responsibility within the club at the time as well. I just don't see how he should be able to come back and, just pick up the pieces and pretend nothing really happened, especially when we've got, 34 current and past players up on show cause notices. I think if it was any other coach, I don't think he would be back, which, yeah.
Pross, the way I look at it now, I think Bomber's done such a fantastic job taking the reins over while Hurdy's been away. You just wonder that if the board put the question to him saying, do you want to go on again, would it be wise to keep Bomber on there for another couple of years or however long he wants until you can look for another replacement?
It's an interesting question. I had the distinct impression that Bomber would coach on, but I don't think he'd be an assistant coach under Herd again. So
the question is, does Bomber actually want to carry on and coach?
I think he does. To be honest, all the body signs I've seen this year and all his talking to media, and, just talking to people in general within the Essendon community, I get the distinct impression that he's rejuvenated, he's enjoying it, and that he's just enjoying his football at the moment, even as a senior coach, where at the end of Geelong, I think it's plainly obvious he wasn't. And I still feel like he he has a job. He feels like he has a job to finish with Essendon, but at the same time, I'm not sure. From everything I've heard, he won't work under Hurd.
So if he doesn't get that opportunity and Hurd does come back towards the end of this year and continue on, do you reckon he'll look for other opportunities in another club rather than stay in the background under Hurd?
Look, it's a distinct possibility, and I mean, it also comes down to what's available as well. I honestly reckon he'd be a fantastic fit for even North Melbourne or Richmond. And that's one of the things I'm really worried about as well, is that in order to get Hurd back, who is more or less unproven and has no actual real credentials or sticky selling points when it comes to a coach compared to Thompson, is that, we'll keep Hurd on and, not sell Thompson down the road, but he signed up for the 1 year and, whatever. But, we'll let Thompson go and he'll go and turn Richmond or North Melbourne, God forbid, into a bloody good team, and we'll lament it for a long time to come. That's my worst fear, to be honest.
I don't want to dwell too much on the ASADA investigation. We have refused to discuss it for a couple of weeks. And there are other things to discuss, believe it or not. And Seppo, Nat Fyfe, looks like he's a very heavy favourite to win the Brownlow, or he would if he was eligible for it.
Yeah, well, I heard this mentioned on the radio again today, and I actually took a bit of a different view about it. All this up until this time, I'm thinking, no, these are the rules. He's suspended. There shouldn't be any type of change of rule mid-year. But it's very interesting to think, someone today, I think it was Brendan Gale, I heard mentioned on the radio that we're talking about the best and fairest, yet there's a lot more scrutiny on the players these days. That there's so many more cameras around, and all these incidents that are happening now. Would they be deemed, reportable back in the day, that all these past Brownlow winners, are they being measured on the same sort of set of guidelines and scrutiny that, this Fyfe is an accidental suspension, almost this head clash that's been brought in vogue? It was rule of the week when he got done, and he's copped his 2 weeks, and it was only supposed to be 1, but 2 because of the points I think he had sitting there. But it's just ridiculous that it's got towards this, and I don't know if they can award retrospective medals, but it'll be pretty hollow for the person, say if it's Selwood or Ablett, that finishes second to Fyfe if he's a couple of votes in front, and he's he doesn't get the Brownlow. But I'm not too fussed about it, but it did bring a new thought to my mind on the whole point of view that there is a lot more scrutiny on suspensions, because there's just so much more camera and footage around these days that it makes harder for the best players to be counted fairest as well.
So what I'm hearing is that it was fair enough to obey the rules and everything for the last 60 years, but now that it's a Freo player with a shot at it, you're all against it.
And hey, let's remember we've been through this before.
You don't want to cast aspersions on Freo supporters here.
Oh no.
No. But rules are rules, and you can't change a rule midway through a season to make one player eligible. You have to wait until the end of the year. I'm sorry, if you're going to review the rules on what constitutes a suspension, what constitutes a report, you can't do it mid-season to make someone eligible for a Brownlow.
Will we be better off potentially at the end of the year sitting down and saying, if a player's been suspended, that they're no longer eligible for votes, or do you prefer that we go along giving votes out to those who are clearly not in the running to win it?
Well, that is an interesting thought, but I wonder if any of the players actually include Brownlow votes in their contract, like if they hit a certain amount or lead the club in their Brownlow votes, that actually get some trigger clauses. But maybe not the Brownlow, but I suppose it's the best and fairest. So maybe that is one way that even the umpires, I wonder if they're subtly, knocking him back. Like surely Fyfe would pick up 3 Brownlow votes for his effort carrying the whole team across the line against Carlton on Thursday. So he should technically get 3 there, but if he doesn't in certain matches, you just wonder if the AFL have gone to the umpires and say, just take a couple of Fyfe here and there. Don't let him win it in a canter.
Well,
who knows? That's my tinfoil hat on, but who knows?
It's reasonable to ask, though. I mean, should the umpires be required to know who's eligible and who's not? I mean, God, it's hard enough as it is for them just to bloody officiate a game and interpret the rules properly without them having to worry about who's eligible for votes and who's not.
And does that
we
reckon that would impact on their decision making when they are giving out votes? For instance, say they can't decide who gets 3 or 2 votes, and they'll go to themselves, well, so-and-so can't win, so let's just give him 3 votes. So it's interesting to see whether it does actually affect how they vote in the first place anyway.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to fly on the wall in the conversations when they're putting their votes in. But it's quite interesting seeing Fyfe is actually that far in front in the AFL coaches' votes. I think he's almost 12 or 13 points clear, I think. So
look, I can understand the frustration from the Freo supporters. We've been there with Grant, so we understand that. But I guess you've got to be consistent for all, and that's what it really comes down to: a consistent rules basis for eligibility. And I'll still stand by the belief that if you're going to change the rules around that, sure, but you can't do it mid-season to make someone eligible for a Brownlow.
Fyfe will pick up his Norm Smith medal at the end of the year, so he won't need to worry about his Brownlow.
And I think Norm Smith is better than a Brownlow.
Yeah.
How is it that every time a discussion about changing the Brownlow voting comes up, that someone brings out the big chin himself?
Well, it's relevant to the conversation, isn't it? Really?
Every time, there's always some guy from Footscray.
We just have to remind you, that's all, that it was Ian bloody Collins and his fault.
Let me tell you something. If guys like Greg Williams can win 3 Brownlows, there's no reason why Nat Fyfe can't do it fair and above board.
Now, this is where the topic becomes interesting, because I think that, this is Fyfe in particular, I was at the time, absolutely for the suspension. And now, obviously, when you have the Vickery and Conker incidents, it makes me realise that it's a shit suspension. Let's not kid ourselves here. But at the same time, under the current rules, and interpretations, it was the correct decision at the time. Now, I don't think there's necessarily a Brownlow issue here. I think it's more the match review panel and actually adequately assigning responsibility for an incident and actually what should actually receive consequences in the first place.
Yeah, so the Brownlow is a byproduct of the actual flaw in the whole system. It was a fast rule of the wall, and that's why we kicked up a big fuss when it happened. But I suppose I wonder if they're going to include that vision in next year's rules of the game DVD that gets circulated out of clubs that you can't do what Fyfe did, or are they just going to brush it under the rug, going, yeah, we stuffed that up and let's not speak of that one again.
Yeah, it's terrible all around. And if he does win, which is a very big possibility, it's going to be such a shame, and it's going to be it'll be very, I don't want to say tainted for whoever does win it, but it's going to be an odd feeling anyway if that does eventuate.
It'd be great if it goes to Ablett, actually, because he almost deserves it. And up until his injury, you would say that and he'll probably be leading the counts over Fyfe. So hopefully if it does work out that way, hopefully Ablett does win it. He'll be a deserving second.
So it'd be interesting if how Tom Rockcliffe polls as well, given he's ineligible.
Not sure. I haven't been keeping up on Tom's votes, but I know he has been getting a lot of BOGs, so he's certainly going to be up there and poll well.
Well, is there any other key midfielders in the comp that could be looking, other than Rockcliffe and Fyfe, that has had suspensions that could be right up there? Would you say Selwood and Pendlebury? They're both fine, so there'll be 2 or 3 others that will be right up there on the end of the night, Brownlow wise.
I think maybe you got to look to the Smokies, the dark Smokies, and who might be a Smoky. I might have thought Parker at one stage, but I don't know how he's been playing recently. Or no, was it Kennedy? Parker or Kennedy?
Dyson Heppel, Essendon-wise, Dyson Heppel might be a Smoky. I mean, he's genuinely been our best player all year, and he's, even in losses, I mean, he's got 40-odd touches against Geelong and the like. He won't win it, but I think, given that, half the bloody leading field's either missed 6 or 7 weeks or is suspended, he might actually make a decent run at it. I mean, it's more realistic. I think Plugger actually mentioned Lenny Hayes before. I don't know how he's actually been going, but, I mean, there seems like there's a pretty deep pool of players there, as in Smoky-wise, when it comes to who could actually be a surprise, dark horse on Brownlow night, as opposed to in recent years where there's only been 1 or 2 possible players.
But I mean, saying that, it could come out that it could be Ablett, even though he hasn't played since round 15?
I think
the numbers. He said he's roughly up into his injury, he's got 22 votes or something like that. I think so.
I think more or less everyone would be happy or satisfied if it was Ablett to win. I don't think there'll be any qualms with him not being the best player when he was playing and all that sort of stuff.
But he has missed he's going to miss 6 games, I think, to the end.
More 6 more or less, but I mean, his form was such that he was absolute Monty to win before he got injured. So
it's not impossible. It can happen. It has happened in the past, where players have been out injured through round 14, 15 of the season and actually gone on to win the Brownlow. So, it's not something that happens very often, but it has happened before.
From memory, in 2003 or 4, James Hird ended up being, I think it was 2 or 3 votes off the Brownlow when he missed about 7 or 8 games for the year. That's the most recent memory I have of someone, not actually playing a lot of games, but still actually getting up there.
Well, even just in 2012, Fyfe actually had the highest of votes per game ratio because he missed a big chunk with his shoulder injury.
Yep.
And I think he had the biggest rate of votes for the games he
From memory,
actually
he was
played that year.
From memory, he got about 1.44 or something votes per game, which was above Joe Watson.
All right. Reece Conker was brought up earlier, I think, by Prosecutor. He was he got 2 weeks for his decking from
The
behind.
coward punch almost into the back of...
Well, he attacked him from
Giant.
behind. He tried to king hit him. So,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, now David Galbally today also saying that Reece Conker should have been charged with assault. Probably not that far. Maybe attempted assault if there is such a charge. How did you see it, Goss?
Well, it's an interesting question or the proposition anyway, how on-field incidents get separated from real-life incidents. I mean, if he was to do that on Saturday night or whatever, if he did that to Dale Gartlett, would he get charged with assault, do you reckon?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If he walked up...
what does actually being on a football field, for instance, take away those, your responsibilities as a member of society?
And I think that's Galbally's argument, is that if he walked up to a bouncer on, and decked him like that, or hit him the same way, he'd be not in good shape.
And it's interesting that with that classification and the point system, that it was technically 3 weeks down to 2. Yet you'd say that's intentional conduct. So he's gone over there and intentionally hit him. But it almost like this type of a thing needs to be worse than intentional, like stupidity. So you've got not negligent, reckless, intentional, and just plain stupid. That deserves more than bloody 3 weeks down to 2 with good behaviour. That's just ridiculous.
It was way off the ball. It was like he literally had to get up off the ground and run to the guy to try and hit him. I mean, it's absolutely intentional, absolutely
and it's like
reckless.
the play was facing him; it was to his back. That's something you don't often see in a football field. Usually, if someone's taking a hit, it's because they're side on, they're looking at them, so they can see it coming and protect themselves. But that's just
it's un-Australian. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And
it's not even Australian. It's in general.
It's unmanly. That's what it is. Anyway,
it's interesting though. I thought the thing I loved most about it was once he's come off the ground, he's just put his arms out, saying, "Oh, what did I do?" It's like, you're serious, buddy. You've just run off. You've come off the long run. You've done a carro in all respects. You come up and bloody king hit a guy from behind, and you're wondering what you did wrong.
All right, the last bit of news I want to bring up before we move into the games for the weekend. The AFL has refused to run advertisements for the humanitarian aid for Gaza at Adelaide Oval this weekend. A local guy wanted to pay for some stuff, and it never happened. What do you think?
I think it's glad the AFL are probably staying out of the politics, because I think when you're talking about the stuff that's happening in Gaza, and I know it's nice with humanitarian aid and everything, but I think it's probably safe to actually stay out of trying to push anything that could be deemed as political. And you can see that they're probably their stand of trying to get themselves, because they could alienate some of the potential supporter base, and I suppose that's where they're thinking about their own backyard and how it's involved in that.
Yeah, AFL are probably saving it for a specialised round next year. Let's not kid ourselves.
The
I think it's
save goes around.
More first and foremost, the game's promoted as being a multicultural game, regardless of who you are, where you come from, what nationality you are, what religion you are. That it's a game for everyone, and we certainly don't want to go down that track And not that I'm saying that it's likely, but go to a track or go to that place where we had soccer in the 80s, which was just a complete sham, Mind you, soccer is a lot more cleaner and better than it used to be, but, I think the AFL, rightly so, needs to keep away from that.
All right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Wookie, but is with this what this campaign would have been, it's not necessarily for one side or the other. It's just specifically people who have been affected by the.
Yeah, it's purely for aid. It's not taking sides. It's not placing blame. It's just purely to send aid, I suppose.
Yes, on that level, I have no problem with it. I don't. If, for instance, it was like stand by the Palestinians or whatever, then that's a different matter. But if it's just aid for people who've been affected by this, then I don't see what the big deal is, to be honest.
Yeah. All right, we're going to move into the weekend's games very quickly. Fremantle played Carlton on Thursday night, as we have discussed briefly already. But Fremantle running out winners by 5 points in this game. Seppo?
Well, it was a heart stopper for me. It was nerves, edge of the couch stuff the whole game. Like I said earlier with Fyfe, he just carried the whole team over the line there. But I was amazed at how well Carlton played, and even just watching Judd again almost wind back the clock. I suppose he's done it a couple of weeks in a row now, but sort of good to see them come back a bit. But it's just great that we actually clawed it back, and on behalf of some favourable umpires' calls after they stuffed up a lot of the calls in the first half, and I thought Crowley got hardly done by with all his little jabs from Murphy and some players off the ball. And I'm glad, actually, this is probably not related to the game, but Freo absolutely submitted some evidence with a medical report and downfield vision that I think got Nick Graham with a reprimand for his knock on Crowley. They actually put him on his haunches over an hour forward 50 off the ball. So it's great that the AFL didn't look at that incident, but Freo had to go to their extra stretch to actually provide some evidence to finally pin someone for a dirty act on Crowley.
Dibber-dobbers. That's what Fremantle are. Cheats and dibber-dobbers.
Doing the job that the AFL should be doing.
You heard it here first, folks. Freo cheats and dibber-dobbers who wear nappies. Friday night, Sydney played Essendon in one of the bigger games of the round, perhaps. And Sydney, unsurprisingly to most of us, took this game out by 22 points. Prosecutor.
Yeah, I think in the end it was a pretty mundane game all round, to be honest. Good to see Tim Membry make his debut. Didn't look out of place, so good on him. Probably won't play another game for Sydney, but them the deals. But apart from that, it was as I said, pretty mundane game. Essendon didn't play their best footy, but in the end, it's probably the last game that we went into for the year where we won't be favourites. And, to get away with a 22-point win against Sydney at the SCG, I mean, you take that every day when you've got 4 winnable games coming into your last home stretch. So, rebuild, work on the areas that we need to, and, all in all considered, it wasn't a bad loss.
Okay, Adelaide played West Coast on Saturday afternoon at Adelaide Oval. West Coast perhaps surprising many by getting up over the Crows. 33 points in the end. Guys, does this kill Adelaide's chances of winning the flag?
Well, it makes it very hard for them.
Jeez, that's...
I think that died in round 1.
No.
Yeah, look, I think it was definitely a match that Adelaide did have to win. I did see the game, and they just looked nowhere in it, unfortunately. It's just one of those ones, unfortunately, that they're going to come back to rue the loss.
They more or less undid the good work they did against Collingwood last week. Before the round started, you looked at the draw and you thought, okay, Adelaide should make it. But, you have a game like that on the weekend against West Coast where they're fancied to win. That's probably one of the games you're most likely to look at and say, okay, we'll more or less bank that game. To, cough that up, it's put them from being the favourites to fill that 8th position to, trying to keep their head above the water now. So it was a terrible loss for them, and well played to West Coast as well. I certainly didn't see that coming, but in the end, all their good players played well. They showed a bit of that potential about what they can be when they're up and running, which we haven't seen too much in the last year or two. And so, it was a good win all round for West Coast, and Adelaide will need a big last 4 games.
Okay, Saturday afternoon, late Saturday afternoon, Richmond played GWS. This game, the Tigers won by 27 points in the end, 13-11 to 8-14. It does appear that GWS may have kicked themselves out of this game, perhaps, but does this put Richmond within a chance of making the 8?
Well, they've won 5 in a row. Well, you know what Richmond are like when they've got a bit of steam behind them. So there's faint hope. But, I mean, first of all, they have to get past Essendon Friday night. And if they do that, then they have every chance, I guess.
Very unlikely, I think. The GWS win was a good win, but it was still really one of those games where you'd think, you'd expect Richmond to win, and anything less wouldn't be something you would contemplate. But as for Richmond's chance of making the finals, I think that's still very, very slim. I think they'd have to rely on a number of upsets in the last remaining couple of rounds for that to happen.
Okay, Saturday night, Gold Coast played St Kilda. I don't think this was a surprise to most people. Perhaps the margin might have been, but Gold Coast getting up by 63 points, almost double St Kilda's 64-point score. Gold Coast still in the hunt for their spot in the 8 there, despite Messenger riding them off. He's not here, so I'm blaming him for everything.
That's all right. No, still, they're still in the hunt. There's still a chance of making it. I was a bit surprised with the result. I thought St Kilda would have actually done a lot better than that, but I guess I probably fooled myself on that one.
Crows' loss eases the pressure on them a little bit.
Very much so. So they're lucky with a few other results going their way this weekend to sort of ease the pressure and give them a bit of leeway coming into the remaining 4 matches.
Win without Adelaide as well, so not too bad. North Melbourne on Saturday night failed to get up over Geelong. Was there any whinging after the game, lads?
I was whinging myself watching this one. I sat down and I thought the Carlton-Freo game was badly umpired, but this took it to an ultimate low, I think, in terms of the games I've seen this year. I was, as a neutral, pulling my hair out at some of those decisions. I'd be pulling my hair out if I was a North supporter, because they certainly didn't get the rub of the green for a while there.
Melbourne and Brisbane played Sunday afternoon. Brisbane, probably not really surprising, but getting up by 23 points over the Demons. This game, I believe, was played at Etihad for some reason.
Melbourne keep their brilliant Etihad record alive.
So, this
They've
was apparent.
lost 19 in a row there since 2007, or it might even be more now.
This game will go down forever as the sun in your eyes game, apparently.
Along with every other afternoon game played at Etihad Stadium.
There's nothing worse than either being at that ground or even just watching on TV as the camera struggles to focus with the ball going from in and out of the shade. Why don't they just close it? It's just
It's
silly.
the same debate every time.
But is the sun in your eyes a big thing?
It
Right.
is
I
when you're
think
at the
it is,
ground and the
Etihad
camera
Stadium
is
was
huge.
the orientation.
Forget TV for a minute. Is as a player and a spectator at the ground, is it as a spectator at the ground, is it worth having the roof open?
No.
Well, then they should shut it, weld it shut.
And definitely as a player, you can see they really do struggle
I don't care about
with the roofs
players.
open with the sun in their eyes.
Players can deal with it. Players have always had to. No, I'm serious. Players that complain about the sun in their eyes, they can deal with that shit. That's we've got the best ground conditions we have ever had in this competition. You go back, you watch some of the games in the 90s where the MCG was a beach and Princess Park was a mud pit in the middle, and just players are spoiled these days. You can deal with
I think
this.
the big issue Eddie had is the actual shadow that casts from the opening in the roof. It's more than any other ground
I
that you
don't
actually
care.
get with the
They're
difference of sun and shade. That makes it hard for the players.
They're
That
whining.
and the
It's like
orientation of the
messenger level
grounds
whining.
directly north to south, isn't it? Or
Most
east
of the
to
other
west?
grounds are east to west. It's
Yeah,
north-south.
so hence why it affects Etihad more as well.
Wasn't it designed by a member of the Essendon board?
Oh, probably. I don't know.
Didn't I read? I read that somewhere during the week, I think.
Forgetting to put the coach's box in, yeah, probably.
Mike, the Western Bulldogs, unfortunately not able to get the job done against the Hawks. Luckily, you haven't got Messenger here to overly dwell on the supremacy of the the brown and gold. How did you see the game, huh?
Well, you saw my little response to to Messenger there in the podcast, Mel. But look, I thought we were okay for about a quarter and a half or two quarters and thereabouts. But I think it's very hard against Hawthorn when they've got such a good team and so much leg speed. They run over the top of us as most people expected. So as for Hawthorn, no, not surprised at all that they won. As for us, I'm probably a little bit disappointed that we didn't do better. So I guess it's just one of those things where we have to hopefully win a few more games before the year's out. Otherwise, I think McCartney could be in a bit of trouble.
All right. Last game for the round was Collingwood and Port Adelaide at the MCG in the afternoon there. Collingwood getting up by 6 points over Port Adelaide in a close one. Has this reinvigorated the Pies?
No, they're still putrid.
It saved them, not reinvigorated them, because they were really, if they'd lost that, you could really say that they were out of the race for the 8, but it's really just kept their hopes alive, not actually caused them to get back, because they really just limped over the line. Well, not limped over the line against Port, but Port are struggling, so it wasn't a convincing win from Collingwood.
Okay.
There's a lot of Essendon 2013, 2012, and so on and so forth with Port Adelaide this year. It's
there is. They just
like
faded
a
a
ball
month.
face.
They just faded a month later than Essendon would have in years past. To the ladder, and Hawthorn on top, equal with the Swans, but the Swans have 3% on them. They've got Melbourne this week, Hawthorn. We'll talk about that in a minute. Geelong coming in third and equal with the top two, but again, percentage way behind, 25% behind actually. So they're not going to catch first and second anytime soon unless they drop out. Fremantle outright fourth, a game behind the top three. Port Adelaide in fifth, a game again behind Fremantle. North Melbourne and Essendon and Collingwood and the Gold Coast all on 10 wins apiece. There is a bit of a logjam between 6th and 9th. And that's going to be fascinating in the next couple of weeks to see how that goes. The Crows coming in at 9th with the Eagles. The Crows coming in at 10th on 9 wins with the Eagles, the Eagles and Richmond on 8 wins. Bit of wishful thinking there for me, old Wookie. Carlton and the Bulldogs on 6 wins apiece with Brisbane, and bringing up the rear, GWS, Melbourne and St Kilda. There was an article in the AFL.com.au, I think, basically saying that it's one of the closest seasons in terms of sections of the ladder, where a lot of it is going to come down to percentage at the end of the year where teams are going to finish. The top three are, on the level. The bottom three are level. There's, the middle teams are level. It's a bizarre season.
I think it's a testament, though, to just how even this competition is now. I mean, we've had GWS knock off Sydney. We've had St Kilda knock off Rio. There's no giving wins anymore. It's genuinely tough. Each week, if your opponent has one of their days, then they can get up. It doesn't matter if you're Sydney. It doesn't matter if you're St Kilda. It's great to watch, to be honest, because you rock up to every game and you don't know what will happen. And
it is good to see the bottom teams level, like they're evenly distributing the wins and the losses, and just I think it was always going to be that way once GWS started to develop. Melbourne improved under a different coach. Even the Lions improved a little bit, I think. So the wins at the top aren't as high as perhaps they might have been in other years where there was like 20 wins in the season at the top and
Carlton
like
are doing their fair share to stick amongst those lowly teams like Bulldogs and Lions. And
yeah.
I think it's great, actually, the way they've done that fixture with that top grouping of 6, the middle 6 and the bottom 6, that next year you'll actually get that bottom 6 getting those return leg games against each other. So you'll get more Lions and Bulldogs, Carlton, GWS playing each other. I think it's a great way they've done that fixture, and it's actually levelled it out a bit more.
Yeah, more Twilight games, just what everyone wants to see.
Not necessarily the actual time, but the way that you get the double up games. I think it's a lot better. Someone's going to cop it as long as they don't keep on putting people in the Sunday night times.
Leading goal kickers for the season to date, Jay Schultz leading with 53, Tom Hawkins on 51, Jared Ruffhead with 50, Lance Franklin with 50 as well, Luke Bruce with 46. Hawthorn have 3 of the top 10 goal kickers in the competition, so obviously not missing Lance Franklin. So good for them. And Seppo, Hayden Ballantyne coming in at number 10 there. No joy for you or I there, Mike, in the top 10.
No, unfortunately, and probably not going to be for a little while.
But Jack McRae coming in at number 7 for disposals. And so take some small comfort there. Josh Kennedy, the league leader for disposals. Matt Prittis, Scott Pendlebury, Nathan Jones, and Dyson Heppel making up the top 5 there. Dion Prestia having a good year for the Suns. And as I said, Jack McRae leading out Gary Ablett, Trent Cotchin, and Brandon Ellis. So fascinating stuff.
There you go.
At the end of round 19. And we plunge straight into round 20 before we wrap up tonight. And Richmond have got Essendon Friday night in the return game for them. This is at the MCG. Guys,
Should be a ripper.
you'd hope so.
Yeah, look, given Richmond's form over the last 2 months, it should be a really good cracking game. I'm still going to go with Essendon for this one. I don't know why, but I'm just going to tip Essendon.
Yep.
I'd say more or less if Essendon win on the weekend, we've got 1 foot inside the 8.
Yep.
You don't see Essendon losing any more games for the rest of the year once they pick this one up, and I think that really puts a fork in Richmond. I'd love to see it happen on Friday night, just in front of everyone. Season over. There's that mathematical chance gone, I think.
Well, after this week, we've got West Coast and the Gold Coast consecutively at Etihad Stadium before finishing with Carlton. So I'd say, I'd be pretty confident of winning at least 2 of those. So, I mean, that should keep us in the 8.
We'll see how we go. GWS have got North Melbourne on Saturday afternoon at Spotless Stadium, I believe. At Spotless Oval in Sydney. Can North Melbourne throw another game away?
We can only hope.
Well, if a side going to lose to GWS, it's North Melbourne the side to do it. So I might tip GWS in a little bit of an upset. Put me down for 3 points. GWS win.
It'll be fun to see Chris Scott's face explode. It'd be awesome. Carlton have got Gold Coast at Etihad Stadium. This is Saturday afternoon, 2:10.
This is a hard one to tip.
Game.
A 2:10 game.
Oh, no, deceptively good.
I think Carlton will get this one. But, I'm biased, so...
I think without Ablett, I'll tip Carlton just. But if Ablett was there, I'd have to go in favour of Gold Coast. So it's amazing what one player can change your tipping. But I'm going to go Carlton this one.
Seppo, Hawthorn versus Melbourne on Saturday afternoon will be the
avert your eyes, kids.
Keep your kids at home.
Rated, as Messenger would say.
R rating, whatnot. Port v Sydney at Adelaide Oval on Saturday night will be an interesting game. If not, well, it won't be game of the round. That'll go to Geelong Fremantle. But
certainly, if Port get up, that could really shape up the top 4. It keeps Port closer, and it actually brings Sydney down to the pack. Because technically, I think Sydney should just go on and just win every game from here on. But if Port do take this game away, it's going to make that top 4 not only minor premiers, but actually if Port can finish in the top 4, quite interesting.
Well, if they lose, it brings up the bottom 4 of the 8 as well. It puts them right back in the pack. So they'd want to win this to keep in touch. But if they lose, they're going to be right back with the guys playing in the elimination finals, so you don't really want that.
Port did beat Sydney this time last year. I think they had a similar thing where Port played Collingwood, they beat them, and then they played Sydney and beat them 2 games in a row roughly this same time last year. So interesting little repeat of the fixture. So hopefully Port can do us a favour and take out Sydney.
Seppo, Geelong have got Fremantle at Skilled Stadium on Saturday night. We don't need to be reminded of the last time these 2 teams played at Skilled Stadium to know that Fremantle have won there.
What a fantastic. And you want to hear a great stat about our Geelong-Fremantle rivalry. Michael Barlow has not lost yet to Geelong. He has played 5 games against them and won every single one. So when he's been missing, we've lost against the Cats over the since 2010. So in this short period of time, he is having a great continuous run. So hopefully he's playing this Saturday night, and hopefully we get the job done.
Okay. Mike, Brisbane Lions have got Adelaide at the Gabba.
Yeah,
on
look, I actually
Sunday.
see Adelaide win this one. Even though they didn't do so well against West Coast, I think they're going to be in a real spot of bother if they don't. And I think they know this now. So I'm going to tip Adelaide probably by about 3 to 4 goals.
And while we've still got you, Mike, St Kilda have got the Bulldogs on Sunday afternoon.
I'm going to tip the Bulldogs for this one, purely because obviously our team is a little bit better stage than St Kilda is. We've got a few better players than them. Obviously, we're a lot deeper in the rebuild than they are, and should hopefully have Jones coming back this week. It would be good to see Jones come back. But yeah, I think the Dogs by about 4 to 5 goals.
Prosecutor, we've got West Coast playing Collingwood Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, another interesting game for Collingwood to see. Well, more or less, I think they have to win this if they want to make the 8, or to be very sure of their spot anyway. Especially with they've got Hawthorn in the last round, and Collingwood dropping 2 games really would put them on the brink. So it's a must-win for them, and if they don't win it, I'd more or less put a line for them for the rest of the season. And West Coast are in some good form, so it'll be interesting to see if they can continue on with that. I'd go West Coast myself by about 3 or 4 goals.
Alrighty, before we wrap up, guys, what are you expecting to see on the weekend? What are you looking forward to the most?
Well, I'm looking forward to the Crowley tag against Johnson. I think Ross Lyon's come out today and said that he's going to go to him. So I just can't wait for the MRP findings on Monday for the fallout for this event. You know that there's something going to happen. If not, it's going to be retaliation. There's going to be, I think the 50s and free kick count's going to be higher than the scoreboard. So they'll be putting on some extra statisticians down at Champion Data for this game. It's going to be a fantastic one to watch if you're a neutral.
Yep, Mike.
Look, I was going to say again, the Crowley Johnson tag will obviously be on everyone's agenda to watch that game this week and see how that ends up. The Essendon Richmond game I think would be an interesting one to watch too. I think they're both teams obviously still going to be, especially Richmond, still going to be hopeful that they've got a spot in the 8, and Essendon will be playing I think a decent brand of football to cement their spot in the 8.
And Prosecutor?
Yeah, more or less. I'm looking forward to trying to make it home alive from the MCG Friday night. Either, Richmond get their steam up and they go to 6 games in a row and their supporters are unbearable, or, their finals are over for another season for Richmond and, again, the supporters become unbearable and the cycle of hope starts from the bottom again.
I'm looking forward to seeing Carlton play Gold Coast. Gold Coast still playing for their spot in the finals. They've got one at the moment, but they need to keep winning, so this is a must-win game for them. It is a winnable game for them, probably, but Carlton are playing some good footy at the moment as well, so we'll see how it goes. Prosecutor, you're going down to Royal Park this weekend?
We do have our little international competition beginning, don't we, on Sunday?
The International Cup begins on Saturday with a Parade of Nations and various other things as the AFL rips off various international games. But on Sunday, the matches actually begin, and so our Canadian friends will be playing at 10:30 in the morning at Royal Park. And they've got some games there. In fact, you can see the first and seconds of the Canadians play one after the other on Sunday. So I won't be getting down there.
I'll try and make an appearance at some point. Obviously, Renee was one of the best stories of 2013, and amidst all the... when we had her on the podcast, Wookie, we said to her, having her there and talking to her and... celebrating her story as well was one of the more positive stories we had in 2013.
It was
especially with the drugs, with the ASADA stuff happening and all that. So it'd be terrific to get around there and see some people just enjoy their football and just embracing what's all fun and good about the game.
I think it's
I'll certainly be heading down there on Sunday as well. And if it wasn't for that thread on Bigfooty, I don't think I would be giving 2 hoots about this international competition. But the fact that Bigfooty's almost aligned itself to Canada, I'm going to be getting down there and showing my support on Sunday. So I'm going to make sure I can get along and see at least one of these games. I
think it's hilarious that they put on more jumpers like for sale just on the basis of interest from Bigfooty. Well, That's because they were supposed to have a deadline of a couple of weeks ago, and they've extended it solely due to interest from Bigfooty. So, big on the Canadians this year. We may have to find another team to support next time it comes around. But it is good to see the interest and good to see some of their work paying off for them. In any case, that's all we've got for tonight, guys, unless you have anything else you want to add before we sign off.
Oh, I haven't been on since Carlton hired Stephen Trigg, so I just want to say kudos to Adelaide for finally ridding themselves on him, and commiserations to Carlton on the years, or potentially only months to come.
We may have actually discussed this last week or the week before or whenever it happened. I can't remember what rant I did that time, but
and to make a topical reference, I look forward to getting a defamation threat from Stephen Trigg on my text messages anytime.
All right, anyone else? Final thoughts? No? All right, well, it's good night from me. I've been the Wookiee, and I'll say good night to Mike. Thanks for coming on again, Mark.
Thanks, guys. Good to talk to you guys again.
And good night to Seppo.
Good night, and I hope you guys all survive the weekend.
I even remembered his name this week. And good night to Prosecutor. Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, guys. Always a pleasure.
And that'll be all from us tonight. Make sure you get down to see the Canadians on the weekend. We'll see you all on the forums.